You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Thank you for joining me on this Training Thursday show. We're going to go over the absolute best way to maximize your results when it comes to interval training and high-intensity interval workouts. So let's go over that right now. You probably heard about it before, but if you haven't, what interval training is doing a specific set of work. Let's call it jumping jacks, jump rope, running, spinning, or any type of basically all-out work for a certain period of time. And then after that time, whether it's 10 seconds, 20 seconds, all the way up to maybe 4 minutes, like we're going to talk about today, you're going to take a period of rest. So if you think about it, when you go for a run or you go for a bike or whatever it might be, you simply get on the bike or you just run. You just go for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever it might be. Well, interval training is essentially working harder than that, working hard for short periods of time, taking a rest, then working hard again, taking a rest, working hard again, taking a rest. You get the point. And you'll do that for intervals anywhere between like 5 times and maybe 20 times. So it depends on, again, how long you're going for each interval. So what I want to do today is share a little bit more research, a little bit more science that's just come out. And this is actually very, very interesting. So I've talked about this before in the past, but one of the most famous interval training programs is called the Tabata interval. Now that's 20 seconds of work followed by 10 seconds of rest. I want to explain that one more time. So essentially what the research was done, this was done on actually men on an ergometer or basically an exercise bike where they allowed to go all out for 20 seconds and then they rested for 10 seconds, basically stopped the exercise, got back into it for 20 seconds, rested again for 10 seconds. They did this type of interval fashion, 20 seconds on, 10 seconds off for exactly 8 rounds, which equals exactly 4 minutes of work. So when we look at that, we say, okay, we know from this research that people are getting great exercise results, great metabolic results in just 4 minutes time using this 8 rounds. Well, people have tried to extrapolate that data and come out with all sorts of different intervals. And the problem is that they haven't always panned out the same exact way. But all of them seem to be getting people results in different types of ways. So I want to explain what that means before I get into it. Well, here's the thing. When you're doing Tabata-based work, you're essentially working the anaerobic threshold, the anaerobic metabolism. And that's using lactic acid that's really pumping and pushing the muscles super, super hard, using less oxygen, maybe tapping into more of that lactic acid, more of that lactic fermentation-based energy system, which has been shown to get people really great results. But then it's really interesting. In my studio, legitimately in my body transformation studio, we have 2 studios in Boston. We've been doing this now since 2007. Now, I've been using it before that, but in 2007, we started this specific type of workout. And we've been doing 3 exercises essentially in a row, and then we would do those really hard, and then we would rest, and then we do them basically again. We would do those 3 exercises in a row, repeat, and then we do another set of 3 exercises for 2 to 3 sets each. And we've been getting people phenomenal results, like legitimately the best results that you can get. And the reason why I say they are the best results that you can get is that I'm not married or tied to any particular form of exercise. Meaning I will change tomorrow if there's a better way to get people results. I honestly will. There's no ego involved. It's, okay, this person came to us for the best results possible. What's the best way to get them results? Let's do that. Same with nutrition. Same with everything. So that's how I look at it. But our intervals, like our specific format, is anywhere between 30 and 60 seconds per exercise. So you're looking at it for us, about 90 seconds to 3 minutes of work. Like total, meaning each exercise is between 30 seconds a minute. We do 3 exercises in a row typically. So that's 90 seconds to 3 minutes of work. But we were getting people, and still are getting people, the same results as people doing 30-second intervals, 1-minute intervals, taking off a minute or so rest. And it was interesting because people said, well, that's not the best way. And I said, well, it is, but the science just hasn't proven it yet. So now I want to share with you that, again, the science will always take a little bit longer to catch up what is being done by practitioners in real life. I want to repeat that. The research studies on nutrition, supplementation, and exercise will take maybe 5 years to 10 years to maybe 20 years to catch up what's being done in the real world. It just can't catch up. It's just not there to get fast enough. You have to get these studies funded. You need to actually see that it's working in the real world, and then it needs to be tested. Well, I can tell you right now that the source is Bowling Green State University. And the summary for this study was interval training is a well-known way to get the maximum benefits of exercise in the shortest amount of time. The new research shows that when it comes to running, women may get more out of the high-intensity interval training than their male counterparts. But the study goes on to show a very unique parameter for what they used for their intervals. And I want you to know that this has already been published, but it was originally published in the Journal of Strength and Conditioning Research, a journal that I've subscribed to for probably about 15 years now when I became certified through the National Strength and Conditioning Association. Really great membership. They were the absolute original, unique when it came to strength and conditioning exercises, certifications that held up like in court, like the highest of the high, like the best of the best. That was it. So what I want to do is I want to go over this quickly right now, and then why it matters to you, and then how you can implement it in your own routine. So right now, I want you to know that the participants, so they've been doing interval training forever in men. So all the studies that, for the most part, when it comes to exercise, it's usually college males. That's just cheap and easy form of exercise and subjects that you can get to do these tests. Well, what they looked at for this is really, really interesting. And this is the most important thing to check out, is they're looking at the maximum heart rate involved and the trying to get the maximum oxygen consumption when we're looking at these particular exercises. That just means the men and women, but women in this case, involved in the study, were trying to work their hardest, but maintain this interval for 4 minutes. This is what I found extremely interesting. This particular study, which got women incredible results, again, men as well, but this study's particularly for women, they did 6 4-minute intervals. Now, this is really strange because when we look at interval training, we're talking about 8 rounds for the Tabata. We're talking about a lot of times for intervals, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, or 40 seconds maximum. And we're doing maybe like a dozen of those maximum. This one, though, we're looking at 4 minutes of work. 4 minutes of work and done 6 times. So that's 24 minutes of actual exercise. Okay, 24 minutes of exercise. And in between each 4-minute interval, the study looked at 1 minute of rest, 2 minutes rest, or 4 minutes rest. And what they found was this, that when you're doing a 4-minute interval, it looked like the best ratio was 4 minutes of work to 2 minutes of rest. Meaning the 1 minute wasn't enough to catch up, catch your breath, all of those things, be ready to go again. And the 4 minutes was too long. Now, again, I've been saying this for quite some time. And the only reason I've been saying this is because we have so much data. I think that's really what matters. Like, listen to people who are doing this. And again, you don't have to just listen to me, but listen to the guys and girls who are talking about fitness and health, who are legitimately doing it. Because what we found in my own practice was that if we did a 3-minute interval, we needed about 90 seconds of rest. So it's super interesting. And I've taught hundreds of personal trainers this, hundreds, if not over 1,000 personal trainers this. Now, I had no research to back that up, except the results we get from seeing 20,000 client appointments per year. So of course, that's bigger than this study that just came out. That's bigger than almost any study in the world. And it's one of the longest running. Again, a lot of personal trainers, strength and conditioning coach, wellness centers could also look at their studies as well. And I'm telling you right now, we've known that. We've known that a 3-minute interval, pushing hard for 3 different exercises for 3 minutes, about that, it's not exact, and about half that time in rest. Super interesting. Why? This study just backed up the same exact findings. Now, this is different than me talking about my anaerobic-based workouts intervals, which if I give someone a workout, it's usually 20 seconds of sprinting all out, and then what? 40 seconds of rest. Now let's talk about that just for a second, because I want to break this down if this is new to you. So when I'm doing my short intervals, 20 seconds long, maybe 30 seconds long, like all out. Let's just say you're sprinting up a hill or you're on a bike going all out. When you're going 100% all out, 100%, this is different. 100% does not allow you to tap into the aerobic base threshold, and it means that you are literally going all out, building up that lactic acid, using the anaerobic base metabolism, and your recovery period is going to need to be longer. I'm going to repeat that. The shorter your interval, the longer your recovery period should be, if you want your subsequent intervals to be all out. Okay? If you're doing the Tabata, the subsequent intervals are not all out. The goal of that is maximum output in 4 minutes of time. It's not a true interval. It's very different. That's why we just call it the Tabata interval training. It's excellent. Great to do maybe at the end of a workout as well, but it's different. Okay? If you're looking for performance, if you're looking for working on acceleration, if you're working on speed, if you're working on, really boosting that metabolism, you doing a 30-second sprint, you can't recover in 15 seconds. You can't do a 2-to-1 work-to-rest ratio, because that would be 30 seconds sprinting up a hill, just literally walking for 15 seconds or stopping, then doing it again. That is not possible. Your body will break down. You won't get your biggest benefit by doing that. You get your biggest benefit by actually doing a 30-second sprint and then somewhere around 60 to 90 seconds of rest. Think about it. If you sprint all out around a track, the very top people all out would be able to do that in about 60 seconds. Of course, the best people less than that, but about 60 seconds. I remember in high school when I ran track, the top people were around 60 seconds, right around there. Again, this is high school. And there's no way you would recover in 1 minute after that. There's no chance at even 1-to-1. And 2 minutes, probably not. When you go all out for that long period of time, remember the human body can go all out for about 60 to 90 seconds, probably about 90 seconds for someone that's trained. It's going to take you like 5 minutes to recover between that because you went all out 100%. So remember, now the longer the interval, we're talking about 4 minutes in the study, we're talking about 3 minutes in my actual studios, you don't need as much recovery between sets. Why? Because you can't take it 100%. It's not exactly the same. You can't actually do an actual exercise and do it 100% maximum anaerobic output. And the reason is you can't do it fast enough and push your body hard enough. So the reason why these studies are done with running, or sprinting, I should say, and on the bike is that you can go all out. You can go all out maybe like mountain climbers, but even still, you can't just move. You can't spin that fast. So here's the thing. The longer your interval, the shorter your rest. Does that make sense? So the longer you work for your interval, 3 minutes or 4 minutes, you only need half that time in rest. I'll sum this up in the end with a little bit of an example. And the shorter your interval, the longer your rest. But again, it's all relative. So when I'm talking about my 20-second interval sprints, I ask people to do 40 seconds then on a bike. Okay? So on a bike, 20 seconds all out, I need them to do 40 seconds of rest. They'll do about 10 of those for a workout. That's it. That's maximum. That's a really great interval workout. Of course, you'll do a little warm up, a little cool down if you want. Now, with your longer ones, if you're actually doing some type of, like these people were basically running, jogging, it was an all out, but it wasn't a sprint. They couldn't do it a sprint because you can't sprint for 4 minutes straight. It's not physiologically possible. So what they did though, this study, it even says this, they ran as hard as they could, but they had to be able to maintain that pace for 4 minutes. So what they're doing is they're pushing their heart rate, but they're also pushing their max VO2. That was exactly it. They looked at the percentage of heart rate max and the percentage of VO2 max, and that was what they could work relative for 4 minutes. And they understood that. They knew they had to pace themselves for that 4 minutes. That's why, although this is considered an interval, because now we're changing the scope of what intervals really are. A true interval back in the day used to be anaerobic based, all out for a certain period of time. Let's just say somewhere between 20 seconds and 90 seconds. That's it. But interval training has now become something a little bit different. It's become something that you do for a period of time. 1 minute, now up to 4 minutes we're looking at. But people are still getting great results. That's what I wanted to share with you today, is that your intervals can actually be different times, but the longer you're doing your interval, the shorter your rest should be. Right now, we're seeing a 2-to-1 rest ratio, okay? 2-to-1 work to rest ratio. That means 3 minutes of work, minute and a half rest. 4 minutes of work, 2 minutes rest. Does that make sense? So now the short ones, like the 20 seconds on, now you need 40 seconds rest. You need double that at least, maybe even 3 times to 5 times I've seen. 30 seconds on, if you do a 30-second sprint, I would honestly give yourself 90 seconds of rest. That's how I want you to look at it. If you follow this protocol, you're going to be able to really maximize your results. So the big takeaway is this. If you're doing these smaller intervals, like the 20 seconds on, maybe 30 seconds on, and then doubling that to 3 times that, 40 seconds off or 90 seconds off, what I want you to do is do these types of intervals. If this is not your whole workout day, do them at the end of like your weight workout. You're going to get great physiological response, great metabolic response by ending your workout with anywhere from like 3 to 5 really hard all-out workouts. Now, for the longer ones, if that's going to be your whole workout, like we do metabolic workouts, if that's going to be your whole workout, then I advise you that if you're doing these longer ones, you can actually keep your rest ratio at about half the time it took you to do that actual interval. So we'll even do circuits sometimes in my studio as well, and those might take about 5 or 6 minutes to complete that, and that might be 5 to 6 different exercises. We then take about half that time, somewhere between that 1-to-1 or 2-to-1 ratio. So if it takes 5 minutes, we might do a 2.5-minute rest, or if it takes 6 minutes, we might do a 3-minute rest. If they haven't recovered, we give them a little bit longer. That's your last takeaway. Remember, in all of these studies, I want to actually quote you. I'm going to quote this last part of the study. All the participants had to use their set pace for how they felt during the run and how recovered they felt. In that sense, when runners performed high-intensity intervals, trust that if you push yourself to run what you consider hard, you are probably at the correct intensity. And if you maintain recommended work-to-rest ratios, you most likely will recover appropriately to get the most out of your workout, independent of gender. So what they meant was that, and then one more part, individuals performing high-intensity interval training should listen to and trust their body and pay attention to how they are feeling. So important. That's why I talk about this thing called bioindividuality, right? I could talk about this all day, but the closing point is going to be this. You should push your body as hard as you feel you're able to for the 20 seconds, the 30 seconds, the 3 minutes, or the 4 minutes. Whatever your interval is, make sure you're doing though. Make sure you have a plan. Push it for as hard as you can, being able to maintain that time with good form so you don't get injured, and then listen to your body for recovery. If your body's saying, I'm not recovered, now it doesn't have to be fully recovered. It should not be fully recovered, but you should be able to maintain form for the same amount of time that you had planned on going after that. If you do that, you're going to keep your body safe, but you're also going to truly maximize your results, which is what we want out of these short, sweet, but effective workouts. Thank you everyone for tuning into another Cabral Concept. Appreciate your listens. Feel free to pass this on to anyone you believe it could help. Did you know that the body really only becomes sick or imbalanced in only 2 ways? Over time, you become deficient in vital nutrients, and you also accumulate toxins internally and from the environment. As those nutrients diminish and you increase your total toxic load, your body then begins to show the first signs of dis-ease. It's actually quite predictable, and the good news is that if we know how you began to fill up that proverbial rain barrel, we also know how to empty it to begin the healing process. I was fortunate enough to learn this ancient healing process from my mentor after suffering from debilitating diseases for close to a decade. It was only when I began to implement these techniques did I finally overcome my illnesses and go on to live a life of energy and vitality that I now enjoy. I'd like to share with you now what I discovered after traveling all over the world and how to combine the best of ancient healing wisdom with state-of-the-art science. Allow me to teach you exactly how I've been able to help over 250,000 people to empty their rain barrel and begin to transform their body and lives into what they've always hoped they could be. To get your copy of the international bestseller, The Rain Barrel Effect, simply go to stephencabral.com/rainbarrel.